Something is happening in millions of relationships right now that nobody wants to acknowledge. Men are being treated like garbage, and they're accepting it. Not because they enjoy it, not because they think they deserve it, but because somewhere along the way they were convinced that tolerance equals love, that endurance equals commitment, that swallowing disrespect equals being a good man. And every single day they accept this treatment. They're not preserving the relationship. They're destroying it. They're destroying her attraction, they're destroying her respect, and most importantly, they're destroying themselves. Let me tell you what's really happening when a man accepts disrespect. He thinks he's being patient, understanding, evolved. He thinks he's showing her that love conquers all, that his commitment is unshakable, that he's the kind of partner who doesn't let small things destroy what they've built. But here's what she's actually learning. She's learning that his boundaries are negotiable. She's learning that consequences don't exist. She's learning that she can push him, test him, disrespect him, and he'll still be there in the morning, apologizing for making her upset. And once she learns this, once this knowledge settles into her subconscious, the relationship is already over. It's just a matter of time before the body catches up to what the mind already knows. You need to understand something fundamental about female psychology that most men refuse to accept. Women don't respect what they can control. They don't desire what they can dominate. They don't love what they can break without consequence. This isn't cruelty. This isn't some character flaw. This is biology. This is 10,000 generations of evolution, selecting for women who chose men strong enough to protect them, decisive enough to lead them, centered enough to remain unmoved by emotional storms. When you stand there accepting her disrespect, accepting her contempt, accepting treatment you would never tolerate from anyone else, you're not demonstrating love, you're demonstrating weakness. And her biology reads weakness as danger. The pattern is so predictable it's almost mechanical. It starts small. She snaps at you over nothing. You let it go. She criticizes you in front of friends. You laugh it off. She cancels plans last minute without explanation. You say it's fine. She disrespects your time, your boundaries, your basic dignity. And you absorb it all, telling yourself that this is what partnerships require, that this is compromise, that this is maturity. But watch what happens next. The disrespect doesn't decrease because you're being tolerant. It escalates because you just taught her the most dangerous lesson a woman can learn about a man, that he has no bottom, that there's no line she can cross that will make him leave, that she can do whatever she wants and he'll still be there, grateful for whatever scraps of affection she decides to throw his way. I watched this happen to someone who came to me after his girlfriend publicly humiliated him at a party. She'd spent the entire night flirting with other men, ignoring him completely. Then, when he quietly mentioned it on the drive home, she exploded, called him insecure, controlling, pathetic. And you know what he did? He apologized. He actually apologized for having the audacity to expect basic respect. 2 weeks later, she was texting her ex. A month later, she'd moved on completely. And he couldn't understand what happened. He'd been so patient, so understanding, so willing to work through her issues. Exactly. He'd been so willing to accept disrespect that she couldn't see him as a man anymore. She could only see him as a resource, a utility, something useful but not desirable. Here's what most men don't realize. Every time you stay after being disrespected, you're not showing commitment, you're showing desperation. Every time you say it's okay when it's not okay, you're not being understanding, you're being weak. Every time you apologize for her bad behavior, you're not preserving the relationship. You're writing your own script for how she should treat you, and she's reading it. She's learning exactly how little she needs to give to keep you around. She's discovering that respect is optional, that kindness is negotiable, that she can treat you worse than she'd treat a stranger, and you'll still be there in the morning making her coffee. The double standard here is staggering. When she sets boundaries, she's empowered, she's strong, she knows her worth. When you set boundaries, you're controlling, you're insecure, you're not emotionally available enough. When she demands respect, that's healthy self-advocacy. When you demand respect, that's toxic masculinity. When she walks away from disrespect, she's a queen who won't settle. When you walk away from disrespect, you're abandoning her. You're giving up too easily. You're not willing to fight for the relationship. The game is rigged. The rules only apply to one side. And the moment you realize this, the moment you truly understand that the relationship operates on a completely different standard depending on who's doing what, that's when you can start making rational decisions instead of emotional ones. Watch what happens in the moment of disrespect. She says something cruel, something designed to hurt, something that crosses every line. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can react with strength or react with weakness. The weak response is what most men do. They absorb it. They rationalize it. She's just stressed. She didn't mean it. She's going through something. They apologize for whatever triggered her. They try to fix whatever made her upset. They contort themselves into whatever shape might prevent this from happening again. And in doing so, they guarantee it will happen again. Because she just learned that cruelty works, that she can unleash her worst and you'll still be there, still trying, still accepting. But there's another response, the response that changes everything. When she crosses the line, you don't absorb it. You don't rationalize it. You don't apologize for existing. You look at her calmly and you say something she's never heard from you before. Talk to me like that again, and I'm gone. Not as a threat, not as manipulation, as information, as a simple statement of fact about how you will and will not be treated. And then, this is crucial, you mean it, because if you say those words and then stay after she does it again, you've just taught her that your boundaries are performance, that your words mean nothing, that she can continue exactly as before, because consequences don't actually exist. The psychology of what happens next is fascinating. When a woman encounters real boundaries for the first time, when she realizes that disrespect actually has consequences, one of two things happens. Either she adjusts her behavior because she values the relationship more than she values unlimited control, or she escalates, testing whether you really mean it, pushing harder to see if this boundary is real or just another empty threat. And this is where most men fail. They set the boundary, she tests it, and they fold. They convince themselves that her testing means she needs another chance, that walking away would be cruel, that real love means enduring one more disrespect, one more test, one more violation. And in that moment of weakness, they lose her respect permanently. Here's what nobody tells you about female attraction. It's not about how much you love her. It's about how much you respect yourself. A woman cannot maintain attraction to a man who accepts treatment he wouldn't accept from anyone else. Her biology won't allow it. Because for millions of years, the men who accepted disrespect were the men who got dominated by other men, the men who couldn't protect their families, the men whose genetics didn't survive. Her attraction circuitry is looking for signs of strength, and the ultimate sign of strength is a man who will walk away from someone who doesn't treat him right, even if that someone is her. Think about the message you send every time you stay after disrespect. You're telling her that your dignity is negotiable, that your self-respect has a price, that she can treat you however she wants because you need her more than you need your own peace. And once she knows this, once this reality settles in, the relationship becomes a slow death. She loses attraction because you've proven you're weak. She loses respect because you've shown you don't respect yourself. And she loses love because love requires respect, and respect requires boundaries, and boundaries require the willingness to enforce them. I've seen this pattern destroy countless relationships. The man who tolerates being interrupted constantly, talked over, dismissed. The man who accepts being criticized in public, mocked in front of friends, treated like an inconvenience. The man who stays after being cheated on, after being lied to, after being treated like he's lucky she even acknowledges his existence. These men think they're fighting for love. They're actually guaranteeing its death, because you cannot love someone who doesn't love themselves enough to demand respect. The turning point comes when a man finally chooses himself, when he looks at the relationship clearly and realizes that he's been accepting treatment he would never advise his son to accept, his brother to accept, his best friend to accept. When he understands that staying in this dynamic isn't noble, it's pathetic, not because he's a bad person, but because he's violating his own dignity for someone who's shown him exactly who she is. And in that moment of clarity, when he decides that he'd rather be alone than disrespected, when he chooses peace over chaos, when he values his own soul more than her temporary presence, everything shifts. Because here's the secret that transformed dynamics throughout human history. The moment we're truly willing to walk away, you become impossible to control. The moment you stop needing her approval, her affection, her presence to feel complete, you stop being a resource she can exploit and become a man she might actually respect. Watch what happens when you stop accepting disrespect. When she starts her usual pattern, and instead of absorbing it, you calmly remove yourself. You don't argue. You don't defend. You don't explain. You just leave. You walk out of the room, the house, the relationship if necessary. And you do it not to manipulate her into changing, but because you genuinely value yourself too much to participate in your own degradation. Her reaction will tell you everything you need to know. Some women, when they realize they've lost control, when they understand that disrespect actually means losing you, they adjust. They examine their behavior. They choose the relationship over the power. These are women worth building with. But others escalate. They double down. They blame you for being too sensitive, too weak, too unable to handle a real woman. They tell you that your boundaries are control, that your self-respect is insecurity, that wanting basic dignity means you can't handle them. And when they do this, when they show you that they value the ability to disrespect you more than they value you, you've just received the most valuable information possible. That this person will never treat you right, not because they can't, but because they don't want to. The cost of accepting disrespect extends far beyond the relationship. Every day you tolerate treatment that violates your dignity, you're training yourself to accept less than you deserve. You're rewiring your brain to believe that this is normal, that this is what relationships are, that love requires suffering. And this programming doesn't stay contained. It spreads into your work, where you accept being undervalued. It spreads into your friendships, where you accept being used. It spreads into every area of your life, because you've taught yourself at the deepest level that your worth is negotiable, that your boundaries don't matter, that other people's comfort is more important than your own dignity. Think about what you're modeling if you have children. Your son, watching his father accept disrespect, learns that this is what men do, that this is masculinity, that real men swallow their pride, ignore their pain, and endure whatever treatment their partner decides to give. Your daughter, watching her mother disrespect her father, learns that this is how women should treat men, that men exist to absorb abuse, that respect is optional in relationships. You're not just destroying your own life, you're programming the next generation to repeat the same patterns. The question you need to ask yourself is brutally simple. If your best friend came to you and described the exact treatment you're accepting in your relationship, what would you tell him? Would you tell him to stay, to be more understanding, to accept being disrespected because that's what love requires? Or would you tell him to have some self-respect, to set boundaries, to walk away from someone who treats him like he's disposable? And if you would tell him to leave, why are you staying? What makes your dignity less valuable than his? What makes your peace less important? What makes your life less worthy of respect? The reality that most men refuse to face is that the woman in their life is not confused about boundaries. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows when she's being disrespectful. She knows when she's crossing lines. She knows when she's treating you worse than she'd treat a stranger. She's not doing it accidentally. She's doing it because she can. Because you've shown her through your actions that disrespect is acceptable, that consequences don't exist, that she can push as far as she wants and you'll still be there. This isn't about blaming her. This is about understanding your role in creating the dynamic. Every relationship is a negotiation about what behavior is acceptable. And you negotiate not with words, but with actions. Every time you stay after being disrespected, you're negotiating for less respect. Every time you apologize for her bad behavior, you're negotiating for more abuse. Every time you accept treatment you know is wrong, you're signing a contract that says this is okay. And she's going to hold you to that contract. She's going to continue treating you exactly how you've shown her you'll accept being treated. Not because she's evil, but because humans do what works. And if disrespect works, if she can treat you badly and still get everything she wants from you, why would she change? The transformation happens the moment you decide that your peace matters more than her presence. The moment you choose yourself, not in some selfish, destructive way, but in the most fundamental way possible. Choosing to be treated with basic human dignity. Choosing to require respect as a condition of your participation. Choosing to build a life where you're valued, not tolerated. And yes, this might mean losing her. It might mean the relationship ends. It might mean being alone for a while. But here's what most men don't understand until it's too late. Being alone is infinitely better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. Being single is infinitely better than being in a relationship where you're disrespected daily. Starting over is infinitely better than spending another year, another decade, another lifetime accepting treatment that slowly kills your soul. The woman who truly loves you will not require you to violate your own dignity to keep her. She will not test your boundaries to destruction. She will not treat you in ways she knows hurt you and then blame you for being hurt. A woman worth building with will meet your standards, or she'll remove herself. She'll respect your boundaries, or she'll respect your decision to enforce them. She'll value you enough to treat you right, or she'll value herself enough to find someone else. What she won't do is stay while continuing to disrespect you, because people who genuinely love you don't require you to destroy yourself to keep them. You have a choice to make. You can continue accepting disrespect, continue hoping she'll change, continue believing that one more conversation, one more explanation, one more demonstration of your commitment will finally make her treat you right. Or you can choose yourself. You can set real boundaries and enforce them. You can require respect as a non-negotiable condition of your participation. You can be willing to lose her rather than lose yourself. And in making that choice, in truly choosing your own dignity over her temporary presence, you might save the relationship, because the only thing that can restore respect in a dynamic where it's been lost is demonstrating that you respect yourself enough to leave if it's not restored. But even if choosing yourself means the relationship ends, even if she chooses to leave rather than adjust, even if enforcing boundaries costs you her presence, you haven't lost. You've won. You've reclaimed your dignity. You've restored your self-respect. You've proven to yourself that you value your own peace more than someone else's chaos. And that foundation, that willingness to choose yourself, that's what will attract someone who actually deserves you. Because only a man who chooses himself can truly be chosen. Only a man who respects himself can command respect from others. Only a man who values his own dignity can build a relationship based on mutual dignity rather than mutual destruction. Stop waiting for her to decide you're worth respecting. Stop hoping that one day she'll wake up and realize she should treat you better. Stop accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. Look in the mirror and ask yourself the hardest question you'll ever face. Am I choosing myself, or am I choosing to be chosen? Am I requiring respect, or am I begging for it? Am I building a life I'm proud of, or am I accepting a life I'm ashamed to live? The answer to that question determines everything. Not just whether this relationship survives, but whether you survive it with your soul intact. I want to hear from you. What was the moment you realized you'd been accepting disrespect? What was the final straw that made you choose yourself? What happened when you finally set real boundaries and meant them? Share your story in the comments. Let other men know they're not alone in this, that choosing yourself isn't weakness. It's the only real strength that matters.